Leo believes football belongs to players and managers simply get in the way. His approach to football is player based. When asked about how will he spend his first day as a manager of a club, he replied by saying that I will turn up with loads of information about players. I will speak to people who know my player, who have shared dressing rooms, and who have coached them and even their parents. Instead of keeping a prejudice, I will tell them what I have been told about them. Often you learn the most from their self-perception. He has played down the role of managers on many occasions, stating, a manager is nothing more than a facilitator at the very most. A manager must be everywhere but nowhere to be seen. At the very most, he or she facilitates things but no more. The players are what's truly important. With good footballers, everything is easier. Perhaps this is the reason that so many people are drawn to his words. He speaks to the player and about the simplicity of football that seems to be disappearing by the day with more pundits, pre-game and post-game shows, unnecessary statistics, and those technologies which measure said statistics. He especially dislikes coaches who nowadays see their players as parts of a machine which can be replaced at the first sign of dipping performance levels. Leo sees his players as they should be, people with dreams and aspirations, fears and worries, who are more than just their capabilities. He says, a footballer isn't a bottle which must be filled, but a flame which must be lit. In the eyes of Leo, football is losing its essence. We are overcomplicating the sport to an unnecessary degree. Leo's approach to the game might seem like a paradox in itself. When you hear him discuss strategies and tactics, he speaks in another language that to an average football fan might sound like he's discussing some quantum physics. But to Leo, this is a simplification of the game. When researching tactics, many of us might delve deep into the abyss of coaching manuals and books. However, Leo doesn't even have to go further than the rule book. He believes that the possibility of winning a game is equal for both teams, and we work to increase the probability of winning the game. He says in an interview, if you, 9 of our friends, and I play against Bayern Munich tomorrow, we have the same possibilities of winning as they do, 50-50. However, the probability of us winning is very little. He then proceeds to discuss the relationship between probabilities and style of play. If you set your team with 10 players back and a lonely soul up top, possibility says you can win. This is the only sport which the laws of the game state you don't have to cross the halfway line to win. Of course you can win. However, the likelihood is minimal. Leo then continues to discuss the space in which the game is played. The laws of the game also say that the field of play is wider than it's longer. There is a rule that says the length can be adjusted up the halfway line. This distance is modified by a rule. The distance that can't be modified is the width. He is of course talking about the offside rule. Using this logic, he justifies playing with the wide players like wingers, explaining that the rules implicitly give us the formations which increase the probability of success. He gives several explicit examples of rules and how they must be interpreted in order to increase the probability of winning. But what best defines Leo is his statement when the confused interviewer asks him if there are certain decisions or styles of play which increase those probabilities. Before the interviewer can finish the question, Leo frustratingly interrupts him and says, "You are not listening. This isn't about likes or dislikes. It's about what the laws explicitly state. It's not me saying these things. It's the rules." To Leo, this is a science. Like the laws of physics dictate our world, the laws of game dictate our sport. In another interview, he talks about his style of play. For him, the ball is everything. He says, we all have to do everything according to the ball. It's the central actor. Without the ball, there is nothing. The ball is the mother, the source of life in football. What's the goal therefore? For the ball to go in it. Without the ball, nothing has any meaning. As we said in our part 1, he believes it is a journey which matters and not the result. He says, the objective is the journey, the process, the work matters. In a race, you can be first, miles and miles ahead of anyone else, and then meters from the line fall over. And are you going to ride that race off? You ran brilliantly, and it's far more complex than saying win, good, don't win, bad. He adds, what enriches you is the game, not the result. The result is a piece of a data. Fulfillments come from the process. You debate the game, not the results. Results are not debatable. Do you buy a paper on Monday morning for €1 and the only thing in it is list after list of results? Do you go into a football stadium in the last minute of a game, have a look at the scoreboard and leave? You watch 90 minutes, which is the process. It doesn't matter which brilliant Leo quote you come across. He makes you think about football in a way you've never done so before. Whenever you read or listen to him, you forget how you see football, even if it's for an instant. You see how meaningless results truly are when he offers his lens through which he sees the game. That is his genius. Juanma Leo has never been one to shy away from an exciting and in many cases difficult opportunity. In an interview he did between his time in Mexico and his second stint in Spain, he said, I am waiting for the right team to call. I'm always looking for something that fills me with passion. And I know when they do call, it won't be for a wedding or a baptism. It will be for a funeral. By this, he means he is typically hired to save teams from relegation. So when Millonarios, one of the most emblematic teams in Colombia, approached him, he was pleasantly surprised. In January 2014, he debuted, and as with all his previous endeavors, Leo made a big splash with his philosophical approach to football. He enjoyed some fairly good results in his campaign with the Colombian side, but ultimately wasn't good enough for the fans and club directors. However, he caught the F. Chile's manager at the time, Jorge Sampaoli. Just like Pep has done several years earlier, Sampaoli discussed with Leo the possibilities of working together, and in October 2015, Leo signed a contract with the Chilean Football Federation to become Jorge Sampaoli's first assistant. Sampaoli, as the fiery duo are commonly called, went on to win 2 consecutive Copa America titles, doing so with beautiful football and captivating the entire world with their passionate positional play. Consequently, the duo were hired by Sevilla, a team which had been highly successful under the reign of Unai Emery. Sampaoli hit the peak of their success and popularity when they handed Real Madrid their first loss in 40 matches in January 2017. As many have pointed out, many of Leo's signature tactics were seen in Sevilla's play, and although he was the first assistant, he was given just as much credit for the team's expression of footballing tactics. It's difficult to say what Leo's legacy will be after he steps away from the game. Yes, he hasn't won many titles, he has faced relegation more times than most managers, he has been fired on several occasions, and he's won about only 1/3 of his matches. But is this how people should be remembered? Do our words and actions stand for nothing? Shouldn't our success be measured by more than just numbers? Juanma disliked writing books because he believed that before finishing the book, he would most likely think in a different way than he had when he started writing. Juan Manuel Leo may not have a book, but his thoughts, ideas, quotes, interviews, speeches, and actions are enough to fill a library. He is the ever-changing book that he will never write.